I would say hip hop right now, as an overall culture, is quite healthy. There's a lot of people that are very interested in it, and a lot of people are interested in it for the right reasons.
There's so much potential here, and Perth is definitely going to blow up in the next couple of years.
I've always been into hip hop. I heard hip hop over the radio, and all my cousins got me into it. So.
Obviously, hip hop's pretty mainstream right now with R&B and all this sort of stuff, and in the sort of the pop charts and that sort of thing. But I think in Perth, it tends to be more about underground culture and like a sort of a real love for it.
It's definitely growing continuously, rapidly, spontaneously, whatever you want to call it.
The scene here with the girls is so small, it's not funny. So I think it's a confidence thing. I think because the guys are more dominant. You know, I mean, not just in Perth, but all over the world, the guys just seem to be more dominant in the scene. So I just came up with this idea to do a workshop. It's called One Voice, and it's just aimed at young girls just around Perth. Basically just teaching them like all the elements of hip-hop.
Hip-hop is, you know, the whole culture thing going on. Rap is the one part of the culture, and then you got your MCing. Sorry, that's the same stuff. You got your rapping, you got your DJing, you got your b-boying, and your graphing, and
people tend to do it for the love of it, and I think it's really reflected in the quality of what people do. They really think things through.
Everybody have a good night. That's time.
The problems with hip-hop culture right now in Perth are pretty much the same problems that hip-hop culture's had everywhere in the world. There's a lot of misunderstanding of what it means. There's a certain mainstream understanding of hip-hop which is quite negative.
I know it's because there's a small community of hip-hop guys here, but you know, I think you definitely have to have an open mind, and I think that's what's missing.
I think people complain a lot about no one's respecting Australian hip-hop, no one's respecting Perth hip-hop.
And it needs a lot more respect. It doesn't get the respect that it deserves. You say Aussie in Perth and people laugh at you.
Because there isn't the audience involvement that these things need to survive.
Well, because there's no promotion, there's no support. So if I say there's a gig on, you'll think about it and go to it. If I don't tell you, then you're not going to go. That's what's happening here. There's no one's really telling people about shit. What's going on?
Like you got, you know, Jay-Z, Ja Rule, like Black Eyed Peas, all these big pop names are coming through, which on the surface would lead to it looking like it's a very healthy, vibrant scene. You can go to Kmart and buy a big baggy jumper and a floppy hat or whatever, and you look like you're part of the scene. In terms of it actually meaning anything, I think there's a bit of a lack at the moment from a local sense. Most kids in high schools and stuff like that wouldn't be able to name a lot of hip-hop personalities in Australia, and especially in Perth.
Perth's too fucking conservative, man. Like, I reckon everyone sees Perth as like a mellow, chilled city. Everyone's stress-free, but it's not, man. Everyone's so worried that they got to wake up the next morning and work, so they don't want to go out. They don't want to get fucked up, you know. Have a good time.
Boys breaking, big girls shaking. This is a statement, well I know on the pavement. Keep on moving, you're feeling that groove thing. From happiness to sadness, we give you a mood swing. Big boys breaking, big girls shaking. This is a statement, well I know on the pavement. Keep on moving, you're feeling that groove thing. From happiness to sadness, we give you a mood swing.
You know, I think it's still sort of stuck towards MTV, but we've got to get away from that and, you know, make it our own. We've got our own style here in Perth.
I mean, we have a lot of catching up to do. You know, Perth is a little bit more behind in comparison to the eastern side, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. The reason why it's so big over there is because there's more involvement with everyone. It's not just hip-hop heads, it's everyone, you know. If you have a love for something, or have an open mind, then you'll definitely get more response from everyone.
It's the same for any grassroots scene all around the world, and it happened to punk, and it happened to disco, whatever. It needs to have the people's support at the time, which it doesn't always have in Perth.
Get into it, get involved, get your friends, get anyone you can. It's just all about learning and educating each other, and make something so much bigger out of the little things.
I would say that as Australia as a whole, we need to start moving more towards an Australian vision of what hip-hop culture is. We're still piggybacking very much off America.
It's got to come out from the underground and get all over the American stuff.
What British hip-hop's done, and what especially like French hip-hop, they sample like a lot of old like famous French opera singers and all this sort of thing, and they really give it their own personality and spirit. And I mean, a lot of people, obviously Australia's always had this thing where we're kind of embarrassed by our own culture and our own history. But we've got like old Australian jazz from the 20s and stuff like that. If we could be sampling this sort of stuff and give it an Australian spirit, then people can see that there's actually a point of difference. Like, why should we go and support a local Perth act if they're doing what, Jay-Z's doing on a much bigger scale in America? Like, what's the point of that?
In the future, mate, the eastern states, I'll look at what's happened over there and I can see it happening in Perth, mate. It's just huge.
Depends how much media fucking pushes it. If it's not pushed, then no one's gonna know about it. No one's gonna care.
I think the best thing that can happen to hip hop in Perth and Australia is that when it starts to, this whole R&B, this whole bad sort of thing which happens in America, which we're looking at and saying, it's mass marketed crap.
Because the media is sort of, they've been jumping on it a bit now.
Once that washes away, which it will, like when rock really starts to hit America again and this all sort of settles down and it starts to go back underground, I think that'll give it the next impetus. Now, after we've had this initial explosion, it can go down, then it can re-explode back in Perth again, and that's when we'll start to see real things happening.
After that, it'll sort of die out, come back again, die out, come back again, not anything else. If everyone involved actively in the scene is pushing it.
Keep it up and make it big, because this is our hip-hop, and this is Perth.
Check another installment, fresh involvement with a view like satellites in orbit. I'm floating above the rest with high interest. Probably cause I got a lung full of zest when you hear the bomb.
Aussie! Wicked, eh? I want to see that.